It is currently 9:06 on a Wednesday. I got back from work, made dinner, and now we are sitting here editing and calculating all my weekly expenses. I've been wanting to do this video for a while now, and I just never got around to doing it. And I just want to preface that living in New York City can get quite expensive, so these are just my costs. It's different for every single person. So without further ado, here is what I really spend in a week in New York City. So starting off the work week with a Monday, I work from home on Monday, so I didn't have any transportation costs. So during the work week, my big expenses are really just food. I used to do a lot more takeout because I felt like I never had time to cook for myself, but recently I've started to meal prep a little bit more. So I did thankfully have a salad kit in the fridge that I had put together the weekend prior. As an aside, I wanted to list the cost of everything, but because groceries are kind of hard to split and it's very inaccurate to calculate the unit cost of all the ingredients for everything, I'm just gonna give a more accurate breakdown at the very end, and I will just put a dash for the total cost for now, and we can calculate it later. So not many more expenses for the rest of the day. I just ended up working at my desk for a couple of hours, and then bada bing, bada bing, bada, what is it? Bada bing, bada. Bada bing, bada boom, the workday was over. And for dinner, my boyfriend and I made sundubu, which is this Korean stew, and it has quite a few ingredients that I usually get at the Asian Mart. We did make kimchi sundubu, so it required a lot of kimchi.
Is this enough kimchi?
As you can see, this recipe also calls for green onions. I recently started planting the ends of my green onions that I've used up into soil, and it'll just grow into new green onion. I know this is common knowledge, but it's actually been saving us a lot on having to repurchase green onions, and we never finish it anyway, so it's just a great way to reuse scraps. So one of the costs that I have recently picked up is actually the climbing gym. It's about $145 a month, which I know is pretty expensive for a gym. It is one of my bigger monthly expenses, but I've come to justify it because I do want to prioritize my health this year, and I've also just wanted to find a more social hobby like climbing. So I thought I'd give it a try. This is the second month of my climbing membership, and I actually really enjoy it. I don't think I use it enough. I do want to start going a little bit more because right now I go 2 to 3 times a week. But since I only go 2 to 3 times a week, I'm just gonna average it out to be $750 for each time that I go to the gym.
Yeah, you got it. Put your foot up. Yes.
On our way back from the gym, James got us a cheesecake from a local mom and pop shop, and he's just been randomly treating me here and there for going to the gym, which I think is nice. But yeah, the grand total of Monday, excluding groceries, comes out to be $13.00, which is not terrible and pretty good, especially since I've been trying to be more conscious of how much I spend. And I really think eating at home lowers my costs infinitely. But on to Tuesday. I'm gonna lump Tuesday and Wednesday together because I went into the office both days. For both days, the first cost of the day was my subway to work, which was $2.75. And living in New York City, transportation costs add up pretty quickly. But one of the perks of using your card is that it will actually cap off at $30-something during the week. So even if you spend more than that, it won't charge you. So one of the biggest perks of working in tech is that there is free food. And they do this to make us more productive and efficient, but it really helps on saving money on food costs. Usually if I'm working from home, I only eat breakfast some of the time if I wake up on the earlier side. Otherwise, I will just skip breakfast completely. But if I get into the office early enough, I'll grab some breakfast or a Cliff Bar and then head straight to my desk to work. After work for both days, I headed onto the subway. So the grand total for Tuesday was $5.50 to cover transportation costs. And the last thing I did on Wednesday is I actually went to the gym again. So that was another $7.50 averaged out, and the grand total came out to be $18.50. Trucking on to Thursday, I had another work from home day, which meant that I was saving on transportation costs, but I did have to cover all of my meals. Having matcha cheese seed pudding. So for lunch, I heated up the leftover sundubu. Once again, not many expenses during the workday, but I did get dinner with a friend that I haven't seen in a while. Instead of the subway, I took the bus today. So the bus was the same cost as the subway, which is $2.75. And it was her birthday recently, so I did bring her a little propagated pot those from home. We ended up eating at this Korean restaurant and the total came out to be $17.73 with tax and tip. After dinner, I took the bus back home, which was another $2.75. And overall for Thursday's total expenses, it came out to $23.23. Friday's usually the day that I let myself spend a little bit more because it is the end of the week and I do usually have plans with friends on Fridays. We're getting Subway for lunch today. I don't know when I got signed up for Subway alerts, but I still get emails here and there whenever they have like buy one get one, and it's buy one get one today. So just to save the effort of having to cook today, I think James and I are gonna get Subway. I used to love footlong Fridays when they used to do that. Just throwing in my order. It's a little bit more than $5, but it's because I like to get the roast beef one. But still not too bad for one meal in New York. Since I took advantage of the buy one get one deal at Subway, lunch ended up costing me $5.99, which I honestly think isn't that bad for a whole ass footlong. Plus it was really good and pretty healthy. And on top of that, I walked to the restaurant, so I didn't spend any money on picking up my lunch. Yep.
Not even looking.
Alright, so a quick disclaimer on Friday, because it was friend's birthday, I ended up spending a little bit more than I had expected to spend on Friday, but we were celebrating, so my friends decided to go to a pretty higher end Korean barbecue spot, and to be honest, I didn't really know how much it was gonna be, but the food was great, the service was great, and my friend had a really great time, which is all that matters. But in total, I ended up spending $75, which also included splitting the birthday boys meal among all of us. So that did bring up the cost a little bit, but I just want to say Korean barbecue doesn't need to be that expensive in New York City. You can definitely get KBBQ for $30, and this is very much a rarity for me to spend $75 on a meal. After dinner, we went to a soju bar, and I'm surprised because I spent less than I usually do on drinks, but the total cost for soju per person was $12, and I forgot to really count the Subway expenses. The total Subway cost ended up being $5.50, with the total spent on Friday being $99.57. I know, it's a lot. So Sunday morning, I made this rice paper omelet that my friend Em had shown me a couple of months ago. And I promise you, it's so much easier than it actually looks because you just take a piece of rice paper, you put that on medium heat, you crack an egg on top, and you add scallions and laogama.
배가 맞아요.
It's matcha time. Current matcha rotation. I'm trying out this one, which this brand Pique sent me. They sent me these two actually. And I wanted to make a fun matcha drink because I know Frisia Park made this drink with banana milk. So a couple of weeks ago when we went to H Mart, I picked up banana milk as well. But it should be relatively quick because the matcha comes in these little packets. Also, they gave me a discount code, so I'm gonna just pop it here if you guys want 15% off. But yeah, let's make some banana milk. As you guys know, I love matcha in the mornings, and especially this matcha because I'm not really much of a coffee person, so this gives me my extra boost of energy, and it also has chlorophyll to support brighter skin. In the afternoons, I will drink the BT Fountain electrolytes just to get an extra hydration boost. And I love this combo because these two combined just keep me hydrated and healthier. I think Frisia's looked a lot better than mine, but I'm just gonna taste test. It tastes kind of different than what I expected. A little bit less sweet than I had expected, but it still tastes good. So I'm not mad, but yeah. I might do this more often. So for lunch, my boyfriend James and I went to this restaurant with amazing French toast, and we also got something savory, and that ended up being...
Maybe like, why are you just cut it? Why are you like cutting tortilla with a knife or something on your vlog?
We also went to a friend's pop-up this weekend, and she had been working on it for a while now, so it was just super cool and impressive to see everything come together. We ended up picking up one of her magazines that she made for $30, which my boyfriend James and I split the cost of. We did take the subway, so that was $5.50 round trip, and we went back home and I cooked us some dinner. This is one of my favorite noodle dishes because I grew up eating it, and it's also really easy to not mess up this dish, so regardless of how you make it, it still will probably taste good. We also went to the gym today, so that was another $7.50, and instead of working out, I ended up climbing, so you can see that my progress is decent. I've really only climbed like a handful of times, but climbing is actually a lot harder than it looks.
Okay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
或者你拿个再拿一个盘。
So my friend Elise is coming by for lunch, and I was thinking of making wonton noodle soup, but I don't really know if it's coming out correctly. Hopefully it turns out okay. I think Elise is gonna be by in like 15 minutes. I'm also really hungry, so I'm trying to do this as quickly as possible. No. I literally called my mom this morning and I was like, how do you make this? Amen. There's so many like cute little designs and things like that. Did you watch the live action? It's Elise, everyone. Since I cooked at home for me and Elise, it was a lot cheaper than going out to the restaurant, and I personally prefer having friends over to my place instead of going out in the winter and finding a restaurant. After Elise left, I actually went window shopping in Brooklyn and dropped by a nice little vintage shop with cute pieces like these ones, but they were really expensive, so I didn't end up buying anything. I still think it's fun to check out vintage shops and thrift stores, especially if you're in Brooklyn and you're on a budget. It's just a fun way to shop without having to spend as much money. I will say thrifting can get a little bit expensive, but there are spots in Brooklyn, for example, where it's a lot cheaper. And I ended up making some chicken curry at home with James, and we basically spent the rest of the night in cooking and eating.
They just put out.
Oh, Love is Blind. I personally think Sundays are a lot slower and chiller for me because it is the end of the weekend, and also I need to like mentally prepare myself for having to go back to work, so it is a whole process in itself. But if I were to average it out, I think I spend the most on Fridays and Saturdays, and then Sundays through the rest of the week. Usually the costs are pretty low because I try to cook at home and I don't really go out and do fun, exciting things during the week. But yeah, now let us add up all of the costs and see how much we actually spend in a week. All right, moment of truth. We're gonna go through all the expenses and calculate what our weekly total is. So let's get into it. There were definitely some expenses that I didn't mention just because these are passively getting taken out of my account. So electricity, gas, water, and internet. Usually the breakdown is about $150 to $200 for electricity. I know it's really expensive. My first apartment in New York was like $50 a month, but then my subsequent two apartments were $100 minimum, and I do not know why. Gas usually hovers around the $50 range. Water is free in New York City, and internet is $50. So total utilities cost $300, which I split with my boyfriend. And if we calculate the weekly cost of that, it is $37.50. So the big question mark, how much I spend on groceries. I did check my bank account statement, and groceries are usually around $400. I also split this with my boyfriend. And so in total, that is $50 a week. The bigger cost is, as expected, restaurants and drinks. If we add up all the costs for this week, the total is $130.93. And then the gym cost. So throughout the video, I put $750, and some of you guys might be confused how I got that number. I forgot to mention, but I do get a $55 gym subsidy from work. So the gym ends up being around $22.50 every single week. It's a pretty high price. It's quite similar to my electricity bill, but I'm trying to prove to myself that it is a worth investment. The next big cost is transportation. One of the good things about living in New York City is if you use the same credit card to tap on the subway, you basically get capped out at $33. So if you spend any more than $33 on transportation, you will actually not get charged more for that week. So even though I'm pretty sure I spent more than $33 on transportation and subways and buses this week, the total comes out to be $33 because of this MTA implemented rule, which is great. And the last calculated cost is just a ton of miscellaneous and random expenses. This week I ended up spending $28 for miscellaneous stuff. I'm not a big spender, so usually my random and miscellaneous expenses are pretty low, but the final largest expense of living in New York City, as expected, is rent. For my monthly rent, I pay $16.25, and my boyfriend's actually the one that pays it, so I will Venmo him every single month. And that comes out to be $406.25. So now that we have all the numbers, we can add everything up, and the total is $708.18. I'd say that's pretty accurate. Some months are higher and some months are lower, depending on what's happening that month. But this is basically how much I spend in a week. I know a lot of you watch me and use me as a frame of reference for living in New York City, but I just want to reiterate that living in New York City is different for everyone. Even depending on the neighborhood that you live in, the cost is vastly different. I try to keep my expenses pretty low every month, and I try to save most of my money. I won't go too much into detail about that. Let me know what your biggest monthly expense is. Mine is definitely rent, and then comes food. But yeah, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.